Jesus said, "Man cannot live on bread alone, but from every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." You're listening to Daily Truth.
Look at verse 1. Give ear, O my people, to my teaching. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. The people of God are commanded to listen, to pay careful attention to what is about to be said. See, Christ came to his people, but they received him not, in accordance to John chapter 1, verse 11. Furthermore, Christ was the King of the Jews, though they refused to have him rule over them. Therefore, when Christ speaks, he speaks as one who possesses royal authority, and he demands careful attention and obedience to his word. Now, Psalm 78, verse 2 says that Christ will open his mouth and speak in a parable. If you haven't caught the theme already, this text is a messianic prophecy. It foretells of Christ, his ministry, his rule, and his gospel. Verse 2 says, Christ will open his mouth and speak in a parable. I will open my mouth in a parable. The second half of verse 2 says, I will utter dark sayings from of old. This parable does not refer to the remainder of the psalm, what follows after these first two verses, but rather it's referring to the teachings delivered by our Lord himself in the days of his earthly ministry. Jesus spoke to the crowds in parables in fulfillment of the prophecy of Isaiah. Jesus himself says this in Matthew chapter 13, verses 34 through 35. He quotes Isaiah when his disciples ask him, why do you speak in parables? You may have heard many evangelical pastors in our day say, well, Jesus spoke in parables. He told stories because they were helpful analogies, helpful illustrations to assist the people in their comprehension and understanding, which is precisely the opposite of what Jesus himself says. Jesus says, no, I speak to the public, to the crowds, exclusively in parables. The gospel narratives actually say that Jesus would speak plainly at times to his disciples. But when he spoke publicly to the crowds, he chose to speak in only parables in fulfillment of the prophecies of Isaiah so that the people would hear but never understand. They would see but never perceive. There's a fulfillment to the prophecies of Isaiah that Jesus spoke in such a way. He spoke under the banner of mystery. Now, the word mystery, as we find it in biblical text, often is different than the way that we think of a mystery today. A mystery, often in biblical context, speaks of something that is temporarily veiled. And so, as we find in the second half of verse 2 of our text, it says, I will open my mouth in a parable. I will speak in a mysterious way, concealing, veiling the truth, and I will utter dark sayings from of old. Now, we read that word dark, and we're probably instinctively thinking of something dark, meaning immoral, something ominous, something nefarious. But that's not what this word is being used to describe in this particular context. Dark sayings simply means veiled sayings. It's just another way of communicating what's already been communicated in the first half of verse 2. I will speak in parables, riddles. A parable has more in common, at least in the mind of Christ and the prophecies of Isaiah. According to what Christ himself said in the gospel narratives, a parable would be more likened to a riddle than it would be likened to a helpful illustration. So Christ speaks in parables, in riddles, if you will. And so I will speak in a parable, the first half of verse 2. In the second half, he's simply saying the same thing, just another way. I will utter dark sayings, not dark meaning immoral, nefarious sayings, but rather veiled, concealed, clouded sayings. But not just sayings of the day, sayings of the culture, but sayings from of old, ancient sayings. In his earthly ministry, Christ uttered dark sayings of old. In other words, Christ proclaimed through parables the oldest saying of all, that is, the ancient gospel, which was dark or veiled in times of old, but has been revealed to us.
Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would consider supporting Right Response Ministries, we'd be incredibly grateful. You can do so by going to rightresponseministries.com/donate to give your gift of any amount. If you're not able to support us financially, that's okay. You can still support us in a great regard simply by subscribing to our YouTube channel, clicking the bell, and of course sharing our content with all your friends and family. We can't do this without you, your support, and your prayers. So thank you.